Hello, Teacher Monica. How are you?
Good evening, everyone. And here we are on the platform of Metamorphosis, once again creating a global revolution across the globe and towards taking the flight towards Philippines, where we have Leoncio Calderon Sir, the man of the show today, who is going to start the session and will be taking over soon. So, once again, all the best to everyone. Over to you, sir. All the best.
Yes, so I'm going to take over India. Such a big country. Thank you, Madam Sonal, for introducing me. So, good day, everyone. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, and welcome to our August 21st webinar under the MET 360 Degrees series. Our theme today is, may I share? Can I share? Yes, I believe so. Mhm. So we have our beautiful teachers here at last year's commencement exercise. So rethinking assessment from exams to performance task. Our theme today is rethinking assessment from exams to performance tasks, I said earlier. This session is about redefining how we measure learning through authentic assessments. For too long, education has relied heavily on tests and memorization. But real learning isn't just about passing exams, it's about applying knowledge, solving problems, thinking critically, and creating meaningful outputs. Tonight, we're privileged to hear from four passionate educators from St. Mark Integrated School Incorporated. Let's give them a warm round of applause, everyone. They will share strategies and insights on how we can make assessment more authentic, learner-centered, and reflective of real-world skills. Let's begin our journey toward reimagining how learning is measured. Our first speaker believes that assessments should mirror life beyond the classroom. He will walk us through world performance tasks that nurture both critical thinking and practical skills. Please welcome Sir Judy Lozano, SMIS educator. Take the floor, Sir Judy.
Good evening and good afternoon to each and every one of us. I registered a request to present here on Zoom. Thank you. Okay. So once again, good evening and thank you for this opportunity that I'm the one of the speakers of this meaningful webinar for each and every one of us. The partnership between the Metamorphosis and also with Dr. Calderon. So before we start, I'd like to um, share some insights about our topic for today. So our topic is about rethinking assessments from exams to performance tasks, redefining how we measure learning through athletic assessments. So to rethink means to question old practices and consider better alternatives. Instead of relying on exams that test memorization, we ask how we can measure the true learning. Exams often focus on recalled facts, standardized answers, and time pressure, while, on the other hand, performance tasks, students demonstrate their learning through projects, presentations, portfolios, experiments, role plays, or problem solving activities that mirrors real life situations. Let's define authentic assessment. Authentic means real or genuine. Authentic assessments ask students to apply what they know to tasks that resemble their real life challenges they will face in life, work, and even society. Instead of measuring just what students remember, we also measure their critical thinking, creativity, collaboration, and communication and application. So, rethinking assessment from exams to performance tasks means moving away from traditional tests that focus on memorization and instead using authentic assessments, real-world tasks that require students to think critically, apply knowledge, and demonstrate skills that prepare them for life beyond the classroom. Let me start this with a question. For all of us teachers, how we really apply real-world skills and critical thinking. Is it by memorizing answers for an exam? Or is it through hands-on activities, solving problems, and creating something meaningful? If we're honest, exam may test that students can recall, but authentic performance tasks reveal what students can actually do with that what they've learned. As I introduce my topic, that's what we'll explore today, the authentic assessment in action, examples of performance tasks that measure real-world skills and critical thinking, that measures not only knowledge, but also skills students will carry beyond school. Before we dive in to examples, let me clarify what makes an assessment authentic. Think about this. In real life, when was the last time someone asked you to choose the right answer from A, B, C, or D? Probably way back when I was in high school, junior high school, and elementary. But how often are we asked to solve problems, explain ideas, or with others, which is all the time? Authentic assessments mirrors these real-world challenges. They require students to apply what they know. They think critically and creatively, produce a real product or performance. So, instead of asking, what is persuasive writing? That's a simple task. That's a simple um, task for the students. We might ask for them, write a speech convincing your community to support an environmental project. Now, let's see this in action. Let's start by grade by level. The first one is elementary. In English subject, we known as a storytelling. The students will read the story and they retell it as what they want. But instead of doing that thing, let's try to make it more realistic. It's time to storytelling as a reporters. After reading the story, the students will act as a news anchor to retell it, which is way more fun for students to do it because they challenge to what they know about anchors, about how they feel if they are reporters. Because we don't know the students or the elementary students what they want when they grow up. if they want to be an anchors, if they want to be a teachers, a doctors, we don't say that thing, but we feel it inside of our students. Next, in mathematics, instead of solving a mathematical equation like addition, subtraction, 1 plus 1, 1 times 2, 1 times or 1 divided by 3, instead of doing that, let's try to make it more realistic. Instead, let's say math in the market. Let's have this constitutional, okay, institutional practice. The students practice buying and selling with play money. For example, the teacher said, let's have a role play. The student A will act as a buyer and the student B will act as a seller. Now, how you will apply addition, subtraction, division, multiplication to buying those items that you want to buy. And let's see how the students act, what they've learned about their topic. Next, about Araling Panlipunan. Instead of saying draw a poster about community, of course you expect that the students will draw is about community only. Instead of saying, let's say community helper poster, that is your task. The students will design posters on the role of the community helpers. So you can see on the papers, on the 1/4 sheet or 1/4 illustration board in their bond papers, their oscillos, you will see what they've drawn. They've drawn a lot of helpers, the teachers, the doctors, the janitors, and everything. But the helpers here in our community. Now, before we go through the next level, which of this do you think your students will enjoy more? Answering a worksheet or providing to be a real life reporter or shopkeepers? For me, the students will enjoy more to be pretending to be real life reporters or shopkeepers because the students they want to do something, they want to explore, they want to have these ideas, they want to have this experience so that if they move on to the next level, they will experience what it is. And they will also apply what they've learned from their teachers. Let's move on to junior high school. Let's start with the science subject. Instead of saying calculate this chemical problems, calculate this physics, draw this one, the students will be investigators, or what we call science investigators. Students design and carry out simple experiments. They don't need to go or they don't need to create a chemical experiments like explosive. They don't need to do that. They just need to do a simple experiments. Next, in history, same as Araling Panlipunan. Instead of go to the museum and write what you see inside the museum, of course, the students will write. There's a lot of posters. There's a lot of artifacts. There's a lot of timelines. There's a lot of let's say dead animals or that's let's say artifacts of the animals. Let's say history museum. You will ask your students to create a mini museum or mini artifacts, the timelines. And then one of these days or once a month, you will create a exhibit wherein all of your students' work, their artifacts, their timelines will post it there. You displayed it inside that room only, wherein this other grade level or say other students will go there and let's have an exhibit activity for each and every one. So it means the students will learn about what you have taught to them, about the museum, about the history itself. Next, debate in English subject. Actually, debate is not only for English subject. Debate can be done in Ireland and Pangasinan. Students research and argue in the current issue. This is the way how we see the students and know about the societal issue. If they watch televisions, if they watch news, what they learn about what happened in their country, you will see there because the students do their research. The students will argue if they vote for this or they not vote for that. Now, what's more powerful? Is it memorizing dates of history or curating a museum exhibit where you teach history to others? That's another question for us teachers. Let's move on to the last level, the senior high school. Let's start with entrepreneurship. Okay. For entrepreneurship, of course, the students will create or propose a business plan with a marketing strategy, wherein the students will create their own business, how they do their marketing skills, how they consume their budgets, how the process of their business. Next is community action proposal. It's all about the research. Research a local issue and present solution. There is a lot of issues, not just inside the Philippines. We have a lot of issues that we can conquer, or the students will research about it. And as you expect, of course, the students will write the possible solution for that problem or for that issues. And last, digital portfolio. Compile and reflect on works across subjects. In this part, the students will create their digital portfolio wherein they will comply on what their works in all subjects. But you can see there what they have learned from the first quarter until the last quarter of the school. Now, before we move on to the next topic, I give you another question. If our goal is to prepare students for the future, which task comes closer to real life? Is it a 2-hour written exam or pitching a business idea to an audience? For me, I'll go for the pitching a business idea to an audience. Why? A 2-hour exam is not to be followed because the students will finish their exams in just 10 minutes. The students, they finish their exams in just 15 minutes. You give them a written exam for 1 hour, and when you pass the paper after 10 minutes, ma'am, sir, I'm finished. The teacher will ask, oh, how is it possible? I make this exam for as long as 1 day to 2 days, but the students finish only in just 10 minutes and 15 minutes. In the pitching business idea to an audience, they will think critically. They will think creatively how they going to present their business to an audience, to their teachers, and to apply it in the future. Now, let's connect this to critical thinking. A critical thinking in action. Performance tasks push students beyond memorization. They ask learners to analyze, evaluate, and create. Think about it, teachers. A debate forces students to evaluate arguments and respond logically. A business pitch requires to them create solutions for the real needs. A science investigation challenges them to analyze data and draw conclusions. Isn't this the kind of thinking we want our students to carry into their careers and daily lives? These of words that I said earlier, these are the students they use their critical thinking. They not just talk and talk and talk if they not learned, if they not do their research, if they not do the create, they evaluate everything before they talk to each and everyone or to their audiences. So let's have a tips to design effective performance task. To make this task effective, we need some guiding principles. The first one is align with goals. Make it real. The usage of rubrics, balance challenge and support, encourage reflection. If we design this task way, won't students see assessments as part of their learning journey, not just a final judgment? We're here, teachers, because we are part of the learner's learning journey. We are not there to judge them, but we taught them. As we end this, as we wrap up, let's return to our starting point earlier. Where do the students really learn to apply their real-world skills? Is it through exams or through authentic assessments or tasks? The answer is clear already, teacher. Authentic assessments shows us not just what the students know, but how they want knowledge in meaningful ways. So here is my challenge for each and every one of us. In our next class, let's try to replace, if we have an exams or let's say have a quiz for our classes, let's try to replace one of us with small authentic tasks. And let's see how the students respond. And let's notice their excitements, observe their critical thinking in action. After all, The true purpose of education is not just to prepare the students for the next test, but to to prepare them for life. And I have this by John Dewey. Give the pupil something to do, not something to learn. And the doing is of such nature as to demand thinking, and learning naturally results. Once again, thank you everyone, and I hope you inspired with authentic assessments into action in our classrooms. That's all.
Thank you, Sir Jury, for showing us how assessments can be designed, not just to test memory, but to prepare learners for the demands of real life. I like the way you presented your slides, and when I was able to create an acronym because I'm fan of acronyms. REAL. When you talk about REAL, so is for relevance. Task should be connected to the real life situations and learners' experiences. E is for engaging when you capture where you capture students' interest and attention, promote active participation. A is for applied. When you mention it several times that learners should demonstrate knowledge by applying what they've learned and how they apply it in real life, especially in connection with how to do business, how to relate and communicate with and cooperate with others. And L for learner centered, focus on student abilities. When you also specifically mention that they have their own way, their own ideas, they're able to explore. I like the way when you say explore ideas. So they can actually explore those ideas, especially in connection with with the John Dewey's quotation. When they have their own knowledge and try to explore that knowledge, then learning naturally happens. It becomes learning. So thank you, Sir Judy, for that most informative talk. Now shifting from surgery, let me share again my screen to introduce our beautiful teacher. Okay, so let me share, what's share? Our second speaker is passionate about moving beyond rote learning. She will share how shifting assessments toward application helps learners not just know, but also understand and use knowledge meaningfully. Please welcome Mamuena Lu Amado, SMIS educator. Welcome, Mamuena. Mamuena, the floor is yours.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. First of all, thank you, Dr. Noli, um, for that warm introduction. So, okay, so first let me just greet our esteemed principal, Dr. Riza Calderon, our dedicated vice principal, Dr. Nancy Calderon, to our amazing school directors who are present with us here tonight, to my fellow co-teachers, and to our valued guests tonight. A very good evening to all of us. Thank you for being here tonight. Okay, for my topic is shifting from memorization to application. So how does assessment can highlight understanding and practical use of knowledge? Okay, so I want to start with a question for all of you. Can a perfect test score guarantee real understanding? Okay, so what if a perfect test score doesn't actually mean that the student understands the topic or your lesson? Because the student may ace in multiple choice test, but it doesn't guarantee or it doesn't mean that they can already apply the knowledge. This is because traditional assessments such as the multiple choice test, fill in the blank questions that I'm sure we're all familiar with, only test for recall, not for real understanding. They only ensure or they only measure the first surface of learning. And that type of assessment leaves a very significant gap between what student knows and what they can actually do. So this leads us to authentic assessment. So again, as Sir Jury said earlier, when we say authentic assessment, these are type of assessment that is just not about getting the right answer. They're about demonstrating or showing how students um, can connect or can use those knowledge that they learned. So the core type of this assessment is that this is performance-based task. So instead of simply recalling the information, the students are required to apply their knowledge in a real-world context or problems. This shift from traditional assessment or the use of paper and pen to authentic assessment or performance-based. This is very crucial or important because it helps us teachers to move from asking the question, what does students know, to asking the question, what can students do with what they already know? So this is a fundamental change or a very good shift because this in this way can measure or assess the learning, and it leads to more engaged and motivated students because when we do this type of assessment, it doesn't feel like a chore to them, and they are more likely to enjoy the process of learning because the tasks that we give are relevant and meaningful to them. So, when we say authentic assessments, they are very crucial or important because they just not require the students to recall information or concepts that we discussed. So, require or this goes beyond simply this engage in thoughts or the higher order thinking skills like the analysis, the synthesis, and then the evaluation. So these skills are not only essential for their success academically, but in the real world also, or in our modern career. No? So employers will not hire someone just to recall or memorize something. So they hire someone who can participate in the team and solve real problems. So by starting this in the schools, by designing assessment like this, we require students to apply knowledge to real problems. So we give them a space or opportunity to develop and practice these skills. Now, how do we make this happen? Okay, so let's break this down by 5 key strategies. So, incorporate or incorporating authentic assessment into educational system. First is, or the number one is develop authentic assessment that align with the learning objectives. So the first step is for us teachers is to ensure that our assessment or the tasks that we give to our students directly connects to what we want students to learn or for the to learning objectives. So what skills do we want them to master? So let's use a real world example for the number one. Okay, the English subject. When we are learning or our topic is all about persuasive. Okay. So, for example, our learning objective is students to be able to analyze information and create a persuasive or compelling argument. So instead of just giving a whole discussion or instead of explaining them about giving some example of logical fallacies, we can make them write a persuasive essay about a current event that they care about. So maybe it's all about local issue in their community or barangays, or even a recent news story in their country, in their specific country. So of course, in that way, they have to research about it, formulate an argument about it, and back it up with an real evidence. So see, in this way, we're not just making them absorb the information. We push them to learn about the concept of persuasion in a way that they can actually practice it, that in a way that it matters to them. So number two, we have provide clear expectations and guidelines. So let's imagine that a student doing a specific task or activity and they do not have any idea about what good performance or what is a good output looks like. It's kind of frustrating for them and for us also teachers. That's why clear expectations are non-negotiable when it comes to giving tasks, may it be traditional or performance-based tasks, especially in performance-based tasks. So before the task, we must tell our student why are they doing this activity. Okay? What do we expect, and how are they going to be graded? So this isn't about just spoon feeding them. It's about setting them up for the success or giving them the first step. The first step to success. Feedback. It helps them adjust their approach, fix their mistakes, and improve their work as they go. So this turns us teachers into a coach rather than just a judge or a lawyer that gives a final verdict or gives a final grade. So next is number four, use rubrics. So now let's talk about how are we going to grade them or how are we going to grade the students. This is the key to make our grading fair and consistent. So rubrics. We can use structured rubrics with, of course, a clear criteria and checklist to guide students on how to ace their specific task or activity. This helps them see how they did well in the activity, where they can improve, or the things that they need to work on more. Okay, last but not the least is number five, provide opportunities for reflections. So now, the teachers, this is the most crucial part. Let's not forget the why. Okay, after the task or the activity that we give to our students, it's very important to give the students a chance to reflect or to think. Okay, so reflection is where the real understanding lies. We can ask them questions like, okay, class, what have you learned from the activity? Or the questions, how did this activity help you understand something in real life? So questions like that gives an avenue or a vehicle for the students to think critically. So it doesn't just stop when they submit the activity to their teachers. So after grading them, we don't just stop there. We help students see the value of the activity that we provided or that we assess to them. Okay, so that's the five ways in incorporating authentic assessment in our classroom setting. So as I end my topic here, we just reiterate a very quotable sentence from Sir Dom in one of our sessions before. So he said that we are not producing a product, we are nurturing humans. So it's very important that we instill, as a teacher, we instill in our hearts that we are not there and no purpose. We are there to guide them and to instill human capabilities in their hearts and in their minds. So that ends my presentation. Thank you so much for this opportunity and thank you so much for joining me today. So I hope you feel inspired to bring more authentic assessments into your own classroom. So that's all, Dr. Noli. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Ma'am Buena, for that informative session. So I like the way when you mention all those what comes into play with regards to authentic assessments. So I just readjust the your five I know five steps into 5 hours. So if you allow me that, since also to make it easy, because I'm fond of acronyms, I'm fond of having those to be easily remembered, a mnemonic device. So 5 hours. One is relevance. So when you give a task, it reflects the real life situations, and you mentioned it also in a segue with surgery that problems that learners are likely to encounter, especially outside the classroom. Second is reasoning. When students demonstrate higher order thinking, critical analysis, and problem-solving skills rather than rote memorization. Another R is reflection. It's the most important thing when you mention about reflection. Learners assess their own work, process, and learning strategies, and encourage self-awareness. And how does it apply to them? And what's the relevance of that in my real life, in the student's life? What is my reflection on this? So in every if they have that habit, and it becomes part of their life, then they will see that whatever they have, it becomes their responsibility. That's another R. That they be responsible for their actions, for their learning, for their education. So students take ownership of the learning by making decisions. And of course, rubrics, hopefully it could be reliable enough to give them credit for at least they know what criteria are they being judged upon. It's not being judged upon, but when you say a teacher should be more of a coach than the judge, I like that line of thinking. It's supposed to be a coach. The other one who is critical just for the sake of critiquing students' work. And thank you, Ma'am Buena, for reminding us that true understanding is proven by having real assessments or actual assessments aligned with our educational goals or objectives in school. Let me share my screen again for our third speaker. Where was I? Share. Where's the share button again? Our third speaker, Champions Learner Agency. He believes assessments become more powerful when students have a voice in how they are evaluated. Let us welcome Sir Gary T. Pelueta, Smith educator. The floor is yours, Sir Gary. Welcome.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Sir Nolly. Allow me to share my screen with you. So there. Okay. First and foremost, I would like to express my sincere gratitude for the opportunity to be part of this webinar today. Thank you. It's truly an honor to speak alongside with passionate and committed educators. So our topic is rethinking assessment from exams to performance tasks. And I will be focusing on the key concept, which is the shifting from exam to performance tasks. Students' voice and choice in assessment involving learners in how their growth and outputs are measured. This will be the flow of my speech for tonight. First is the problem, traditional assessment, the impact on the students' personal transition, what is change, and what is our practice. Student voice and choice in assessment, practical strategies for educators, and lastly, the reflection and outcomes. Let me start with a reality many of us have faced, including myself as educator. The problem with traditional assessment. Allow me to share with you my previous teaching experience. From there, I relied on a one-size-fits-all approach to assessment. I may focus was solely on how students performed on the exam I created, nothing more, nothing less. I did not consider their unique learning needs, interests, or personal struggles. I was assessing a result, not their growth. And I know I am not alone. Traditional assessments, especially standardized exams, often overlook the diversity in our classrooms. They can disengage learners, increase anxiety, and limit our understanding of what students are truly capable of. Next, the effects on the students are very profound. When assessment don't reflect who they are, a student may feel disconnected. So the emphasis shift from learning to simply passing. Students' creativity, voice, and deeper thinking often go unrecognized. Worse is that this method can unintentionally widen the gap between students who can play the game of school and those who cannot. Fortunately, here at St. Mark Integrated School, things are different and very transformative. This transformation did not happen by chance. The training and the support I received from the St. Mark played a huge role in shaping the educator I am today. Through ongoing professional development, I gained tools, perspectives, and the confidence to move away from one-size-fits-all assessments. And it's truly respond to students' needs. It helped me grow into a more intentional, compassionate, and responsive teacher. We are not just facilitators of content. Perhaps we are partners in learning. One of the most meaningful shifts I have experienced in St. Mark is how we holistically, not just academically, but personally. We focus on the individuality of each student because this is part of our core values, which is the compassion. We take time to listen to the students. We give feedback, we adjust our methods, and meet students where they are. That's how learning becomes authentic. And we do this with integrity, not because someone is watching us, but because we believe in the value of our role. We strive for excellence, not perfection, to produce not just academically successfully is students, but compassionate, responsible humans who can contribute meaningfully to the school, to the community, and to the world. Now, before I will share how we bring this to life through student voice and choice. Let's try something together. I am encouraging everyone to participate. This is a 1 minute activity. Okay, I will ask you a question like this. If you were a student and you had a choice in how your learning would be assessed, what kind of output you would choose to assess what you have learned. It may be through video presentation, doing portfolio, or maybe a blog. It's up to you. May I see your answer on our chat box? Okay. You may type your answer in our Zoom chat box. If you were be as students and you had the choice in how your learning would be assessed, what kind of output you would choose to assess your what you have learned? It may be through portfolio or through a video, through a journal. Okay. Teacher Kate answered peer assessment evaluation. Thank you for your answer, Teacher Kate. Same with Ma'am Wena, role playing. And how about the others? May I see your answer? How do you want to assess you? Teacher Jomeline, if you're a student, I would choose a portfolio. It shows not only my output through time, but also my progress and reflection. Okay. Thank you for those teachers who participated. My activity, I really appreciate your effort. Now, um, look at this to your answers, di ba? Each of you brings own strength and preferences, and so do our students. When we give them a voice and choice in how they show their learning, we are not just assessing students. We are empowering them. And one powerful way we live these values is by involving students in how they are assessed. We offer them choices in how they show their learning, whether it's through a performance task, a digital project, or a portfolio. Students are empowered to demonstrate understanding in ways that make sense to them. We encourage self-reflection, self-assessment, and peer collaboration. We believe that when students have a voice, they gain ownership, and that ownership fuels engagement and deeper learning. With this, I just want to emphasize that this is the core idea. When students have a voice and choice in how they are assessed, they feel seen. When they feel that, they care more and they perform better and they grow deeper. So let's talk about how we can actually do this. How we as educators can bring student voice and choice into our assessment practices in realistic, powerful ways. First, begin with the student interest and let those guide assessment formats. When we start from the students care about, learning becomes personal. Ask them what they are curious about, give them a voice in how they can show what they have learned, maybe through a podcast, a skit, a blog post, or even a community project. This doesn't mean we compromise rigor. Perhaps it means we increase relevance. Next, create flexible rubric that focus on mastery, not conformity. Let's move away from the rigid rubrics that only reward the perfect format. Instead, let us assess the depth of thinking, the process, and how well students meet the learning objectives, regardless of the medium of they are using. A great idea poorly formatted is a still great idea, and we should honor that. Moving forward, performance tasks give students a real audience and a real reason to care. Let them build, present, explain, and reflect. Portfolios allow them to track their progress over time, to see their own growth. Exhibitions turns assessment into celebration. These are not just alternatives, but these are powerful platforms for meaningful learning. Next is feedback should not feel like a judgment. Perhaps it should feel like a guidance. Make time for peer review, one-on-one check-ins, and self-assessment as well. We should, when students feel safe to make mistakes and improve, they become more resilient, more honest, and more capable of owning their learning journey. Lastly, every classroom is diverse in language, background, ability, and experience. Equity in assessment does not mean lowering expectations. It means recognizing different starting points and making sure every learner has fair chance to succeed. That means using a varied formats, being trauma-informed and affirming students' identities in how we assess. Now, I know that these shifts do not happen overnight. But here's the truth. Even in a small ways or even in a small changes we do, one flexible rubric or one student choice project effect. The goal is not perfection, but it is a progress with purpose. Because when we give students a voice in how they are assessed, we are not just measuring learning. We are fueling it. Since making this shift in students, but in myself as an educator, students are more engaged. They ask better questions. They reflect more deeply. They take more risks. They care more. Why? Because their voices are part of the process. Assessment is no longer just about what they know, but about who they are becoming. Before I will end my speech for tonight, I want to leave this to everyone. Let's redefine assessment not as something we do to students, but something we do with them. When students have a voice in how they show their learning, we don't just measure what they know, we ignite who they are. And that's the kind of transformation education is meant to deliver. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Sir Gary, for showing us the voice and choice. I love the way when you say a choice, you give your students empowerment. So there's option in assessment methods, either to projects, presentation, essays, to increase engagement and ownership of learning. So when you have that choice is through, so empowerment through choice, then if you have a voice, you build motivation. When learners contribute to setting goals and criteria, they feel valued and motivated to perform better. And also, I like your quotation, the last statement you brought up, the shared responsibility. Students become active partners in the learning process, not just passive recipients of grades. So when you mentioned earlier that there's no one size fits all, so you're actually mentioning differentiated assessments, so personalized assessments, uh, different types of assessments that would actually tailor to different kinds of learners, audio, visual, kinesthetics. So even the multiple intelligence that we have. So we are actually tailoring. So does it mean that it could become difficult when we try to shift our broaden our mind into assessing our students? No, we're just applying it to tailored to them. So it's just as a matter of how we tailor it, and we don't think of how it affects us if it make us task more difficult. If we think of our task as difficult, then it stops us from moving forward and see our learners as building them as coaches rather than judges. Relating it also to Ma'am Buena earlier. So I love the growth that you mentioned, that when you monitor your growth, it's just sort of a portfolio. You continue on, when you try to move from one year to another, your teaching experiences. So you can see the progress. It's our life. So each of us has a portfolio. You start from where you were, even a day before, or even a month before coming to school. So you can see yourself as a learner also. So it means when we are coaches, we have that shared responsibility. We give that responsibility, not the burden, no? Not the burden, but the chance to have that voice and choice, as coaches that we are, as real educators that we are. So thank you for that wonderful, Sir Gary, wonderful sharing. Thank you very much. So I think we don't have a speaker. Or we still have a last speaker. No, I'm just joking. So, so tatawa tuloy. So it just make her smile. So for fourth speaker, our final speaker, it doesn't mean the final speaker is the least. Uh, it's just that she chose the last topic for this for I don't know if it's for effect or being the good teacher he is, a well-deserving teacher that she has become. Our final speaker believes balance is key. Let me share, of course. So I might forget to share her wonderful picture here. Share. Gary. Okay, so our final speaker believes balance is key, while exam tests, mastery of content, performance tasks capture applied skills. Tonight, she will guide us on finding the right mix of both. So let us welcome Ma'am Arlingel De Garcia, SMIS educator. Good evening, ma'am.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much, Sir Nolly, for that wonderful welcome. Before I start, I would like to acknowledge everyone here in our Zoom and those who are watching live. So let me just share my screen po. Okay, for a while. Okay. All right. Again, a wonderful evening to everyone. For tonight's webinar, I am going to talk about the balancing exams and performance tasks, finding the right mix to capture both content mastery and applied learning. I am Teacher Jel, and I am excited to share strategies on how we, as educators, can design assessment that not only measure what students know, but also how they apply their learning in real and meaningful ways. Okay, before I start, I would like to ask you a question. So, why assessment balance matters? So, as teachers, we often have this dilemma, or we often face this dilemma. Do we rely on exams or do we focus more on performance tasks? We can say that exams are great at measuring content mastery, and performance tasks showcase applied learning. So if we lean too heavily on one, we might miss out on the benefits of the other. That's why finding the right balance is the key. It allows us to capture a fuller picture of student learning. Okay, let me ask you again a question. If, as a teacher, if you had to describe your current assessment approach, would you say it leans more on exams or performance tests, or are they balanced? So you can drop your answers on our chat box and I would like to see that later. Okay, let's start with the exam. So exams are useful because they measure a wide range of content quickly. For example, imagine a grade 6 science exam that asks students to explain the water cycle. In just one test, we can check if every student understands the evaporation, the condensation, and precipitation, and it's efficient because we get the results for the whole class at once. Also, exams provide objective and standardized result. It helps us build discipline and study habits. They give us a snapshot of what students can recall and process under pressure. However, exams also have limitations. They often emphasize memorization, they may not reflect real-world application, and sometimes test anxiety prevents students from showing their true ability. Let's say a student memorizes the stages of a water cycle and gets a perfect score, but if you ask the same student how water scarcity affects their community, they may not know what to say or they may not know what's the answer. So this shows that as the exams may check knowledge, but not necessarily the application. So while exams are important, they cannot stand alone as the sole measure of learning. Now, on the other hand, performance tasks are powerful tools. They allow students to demonstrate creativity and problem solving. It connects learning real life situations, and also performance tasks let us see different strengths, including collaboration, communication, and critical thinking. These tasks prepare the students for life beyond the classroom. For example, instead of just taking a science test, a student could create simple model that demonstrates the water cycle using everyday materials like a bowl of water, a plastic wrap, and a sunlight. Here, they don't just know the concept; they can also show it. Okay. But performance tasks also have challenges. They take more time to plan, implement, and grade. And scoring can feel subjective without clear rubrics. That's why rubrics is it's important. Imagine in an English class, students are asked to create a skit about a story they've read. Some students shine, but others struggle, not because they don't understand the story, but maybe because they are less confident or shy, okay, in performing. So without clear rubrics, we cannot, or it is easy to grade based on performance skills rather than comprehension. That's why structure is so important. And because they are in depth and they sometimes cover less content compared to exam. So this means performance tasks are excellent, but not enough by themselves. So the question now is, how do we balance both? So the right mix depends on the subject, grade level, and of course the learning goals or our objectives. So again, remember the key is alignment. So assessments must align with the competencies, values, and skills we want students to develop. Okay, here is an example. Okay, for example, in a math subject or in a math class, an exam may take up to 60% with 40% performance task like problem solving. Okay, example, a teacher might give a traditional exam on fractions, but also ask students to design a recipe where they scale ingredients up or down. That way, they apply fractions in real life situation. Okay, also in a science subject, Example, for a science subject, a 50-50 balance works well. For example, exams for theories and then the performance tasks for a different kind of experiments. For example, a written quiz on an ecosystems could be paired with a project where students create mini terrarium and explain how the ecosystem survives. Okay. And lastly, for an English art or a language subject, a task like essay and presentation may weigh heavier 60% with exams at 40%. Example, alongside the grammar test, students could write and perform a short speech about topic they care about, practicing both correctness and expression. So this way, exams capture accuracy and tasks capture creativity and application. Again, the goal here is alignment. The assessment should reflect the competencies and skills we want the students to master. Okay, now here are some of the strategies to balance effectively. First is to use formative assessments like short quizzes or exit tickets to reduce the weight of big exam. For example, in a math class, instead of one big exam at the end of quarter, as a teacher, we could give short 10-item quiz every 2 weeks. These smaller tests help track mastery without overwhelming the students. Another strategy is to design authentic performance tasks that connect to students' real lives. For example, in a science class, students take a multiple test or multiple choice test on nutrition, but their performance task could be creating a healthy meal plan for their family, showing the balance of food groups, and the exams will show the knowledge of nutrients while the tasks show how they apply it in our daily life. So mastery plus application is equals to success. And also, again, another strategy is to always use clear rubrics to ensure fairness in grading. For example, in English classes, students take a written test on grammar rules. And for the performance task, they could write a short story. So the teacher uses a rubric separately to grade the grammar and creativity and the organization. So this will ensure that performance task isn't just graded subjectively. Okay. Sorry. Okay, another strategy that we could use as teacher is to blend individual and group tasks so that the students could practice both independence and teamwork. For example, in a social studies class, there is an individual written exam about the Philippine heroes. Then as a group task, they could create something like mini documentary video highlighting one hero's value that inspired the student right now or the generation today. And lastly, a strategy that we could use is to give the student, when possible, let them choose between different ways of demonstrating their learning, okay? Because we all know that students, that we are multiple intelligent, we use different kind of learning for us to learn. For example, in a language arts, after a short comprehension test, the teacher offers a choice of performance test. For example, to write a poem, it could be writing a poem, creating a poster, or to perform a short skit. So all the tasks that are lined with the same objective, showing under a way that matches their strength, while exams ensure basic mastery of all. Okay, now balance assessment isn't just about grades. It's also about values and life skills. So exams encourage excellence, aiming for accuracy and mastery, and performance tasks foster integrity, producing authentic work. And both can develop compassion through collaboration, peer feedback, and real-world tasks that serve others. For example, in a group science experiment, one student might step up as the leader, and another might organize materials, and another explain the results. So this will show or develop a teamwork and compassion. And at the same time, when they submit their lab reports, they will practice the integrity by presenting only what they actually observe, not what they think the teacher wants to see. That's a real life learning. So assessment becomes not only academic but also character building. Okay, to summarize, exams measure mastery of content and performance tasks measure the applied learning, and both have strengths and weaknesses, but together they give us a fuller and richer picture of student growth. So the balance depends on our learning objectives, but the principle remains as a blended approach is the best. Okay, as educators, our mission is not to choose between exams or performance tests, but to weave them together into a meaningful journey of learning. So when we strike the right balance, we will see that both the students know and how they can use the knowledge in the real world. So thank you everyone for being part of this session, and I'd love to hear your thoughts or even your personal experiences in balancing and performance tasks. Thank you for this opportunity and also for listening, everyone. That's it for my speech today.
Okay, thank you, Ma'am Arlangel. So I like it when you say balance is the key, but you also mentioned about aligning. So exams measure content, knowledge, but performance does assess real-world application. And you also mentioned about aligning them to the competencies according to the grade, subject, and the situation. The 40-60, the 50-50, and the 40-60 for the English. So, you mentioned about the complementary roles. The traditional test is use factual, recall, and comprehension. And I like the basic addition method when you say mastery plus application equals success. So MES, mass in when you say mass in Spanish, that's more. So so something less is something is sometimes more. And when you mention about academic, and it's not only academic, but you also character building. So if we have it in an acronym, it's ABC. So learning is equal to not only being academic but building character. So that's another ABC coming from you. So I learned something about from you using something that is basic but actually makes you not forget and remember, especially mastery plus application equals success. Learning is academic and building character. And when you diversify assessment methods, you also think of what is a mix of written tests, presentations, projects, real life scenarios. And when you mention about blended learning, I'm more on nutrition. A blender, use of a blender, especially for fruits, and smoothies and coffee. So Sonal, Ma'am Sonal, she mentioned about blended, and it goes also connected to blending food in a blender. So it makes me hungry, especially if we're not haven't had our dinner yet. So it's also a good feedback for growth when we combine, when you mention about combining summative tests and formative, and you just not have it in a one big way of exam, rather having mastery on 10 items, probably weekly, so we can actually gauge assessing them on a weekly basis. And that's meaningful because it supports continuous improvement. And as to student engagement, when you integrate performance tasks, it makes assessments more authentic, engaging, and relevant to students' life. Thank you, Arlangel, for that most informative session. So let me share my screen again. Where am I? Here. Thank you to our four speakers for their valuable insights. Sir Judy, Ma'am Wena, Sir Gary, Ma'am Arlingel, from authentic tasks to balancing exams, from application to student voice. We've seen that assessment is not just about grading, it's about growth. To our participants, our deep teachers from St. Paul Integrated School, may this session inspire you to design assessments that are purposeful, learner-centered, and reflective of the real world. On behalf of Met 360 Degree, Madam Sonal from India, thank you for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you again in our next session. And for our closing remarks, may we have Dr. Lisa Calderon, my immediate boss, for the closing remarks. Ma'am Lisa, take it away.
Thank you so much, our dear host, Sir Nolly Leoncio Calderon II. And also, Madam Zona, thank you for this opportunity to speak in front of you. So, as we bring tonight's session to a close, I want to extend my gratitude for your active participation, dear teachers, and thoughtful reflections as we explore the theme of rethinking assessment from exams to performance tasks. At SMIS, our purpose is clear: to nurture the whole child. Tonight's discussion affirmed that assessment is not just about checking what students remember, but about understanding how they think, create, and apply their learning in meaningful ways. This shift from traditional exams to performance tasks aligns deeply with our vision of empowering learners to be curious, capable, and confident contributors in a global community. Performance test allows us to see students as problem solvers, collaborators, and innovators, reflecting the very qualities we seek to nurture. Rooted in our mission, we strive to deliver a rich, inquiry based education that values understanding over memorization. Assessment should mirror the real world, complex, diverse, and full of opportunities for students to show their thinking, not just their answers. And as we live our core values, respect, responsibility, honesty, and kindness, we recognize that meaningful assessment also respects diverse learning styles, encourages student voice, and foster ownership of learning. So let's move forward with a shared commitment to designing assessment that reflect who our learners are and who they are becoming. Thank you for being vital part of this learning journey. Thank you so much. Yes.
Back to you, Ma'am Janelle. You're going to say a few words before we actually end this session, formally end this session. Ma'am Janelle, are you going to speak a few words? Okay, in behalf of Metaformasis, Met 360 Degree, this is Dr. Nolly signing off, reminding you that in education, what we measure should always match what truly matters. Thank you and good evening. Let's we have a photo opportunity. Open our cameras, including our audience. So can we have our open our cameras, please?
Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Noli sir, for so wonderfully executing the whole session. And hats off to all the amazing speakers, amazing guests. And I was really very amazed when sir shared the topic with me. This is a topic we normally miss a lot, the assessment part. And the way you have all shared it with minute aspects, which is not provided in the books in the teacher training institutes, and only through experiences when we are in the class for that duration of 3 to 4 hours. Only then we can understand the magnitude of the assessment of the child. Normally, what happens is we tend to miss out the learning aspect of a special child. But if we divert our minds and learning away from books and incorporate what each one of you have said here on the session today, let us see how these changes can be incorporated by educators worldwide, because metamorphosis is spread across 40 plus countries now. And definitely, we all over here are making an impact selflessly with integrity. Definitely, integrity is a must. And I really salute each and every one for being a part of this amazing journey to empower not only for the parents but for educators, because educators are in the class and they know the deficiency, the deficient learning of the child, where parents are not able to incorporate the right technique, the right method to assess the learning being absorbed by the child. So hats off to each one of you. Thank you, Rizalina ma'am, for I mean, I would say training the teachers, and I can feel the vibes of each and every educator over here. That the aspect of integrity when we speak, it reflects from the way we speak. So thank you so much, everyone, each one of you. Thank you, and looking forward to the next one also. And Leon sir, thank you once again. Hats off to you. You have been excellently, I will say, incorporating the ambassadorship, collaborating with me with Met 360 degree. Definitely, it's a total 360 degree change. Thank you so much, everyone. God bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night, everyone. Teachers, see you tomorrow.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone. Bye
Good night.
bye.
Thank you, Ma'am Sanal.
Thank you so
Take
much.
care. Thank you,
Have a good
teachers.
day.
Thank you for your
Yes.
time.
Picture na.